Listening Library presents Montgomery Bonbon, Mystery at the Manor, written and read for you by Alasdair Beckett-King.
Chapter 1. Adderstone Manor. In olden times, a stranger travelling north of Widlington would very quickly become the recipient of a warning. A wild-eyed Widlingtonian would run alongside the horses, screeching out, "Beware ye the moors, my lord! Turn back afore 'tis too late!" The Widlington folk did this whenever an unwary northbound traveller passed through their pleasant seaside town, because they thought messing with tourists was a right laugh. Japes aside, it did not take much imagination to feel a chill when crossing the Penumbrian moors. Contrary to local rumour, the sun did shine on the moors. Without it, you would not have been able to see the fog, which rose up from the peat bogs, coiled around the crooked trees and settled like a blanket on the ancient standing stones, most of which seemed to have given up on standing and opted for a nice lie down instead. In modern times, someone had kindly built a road which gently meandered around the moor's hillocks and hollows. It was lonely and quiet, apart from the tummy rumbles of the peat bogs and the snores of the sleeping stones. It was the last place you would expect to find an ice cream van. And yet, an ice cream van as grey as the Widlington Sea was plunging through the fog just as fast as an ice cream van can go, which is roughly the speed of a beagle. The vehicle, with its squelching tyres, rattling windscreen and wobbling fiberglass ice cream cone, was named Bessie. It carried 2 passengers, one wildly overstuffed suitcase and one mysterious package. The package was parcelled up with string, double bubble wrapped and sealed with sticky yellow tape that read, "Mysterious. Do not open." At this moment, the enigmatic little bundle was under the watchful eye and fulsome moustache of the gentleman detective Montgomery Bonbon. Now, if you're listening to this story, and if you're not, who is, then you need to know only one thing about Montgomery Bonbon. You do not need to know how he collared Tony Wicker, the phony vicar, nor how he snookered the billiard ball bandit. You certainly do not need to know how he nabbed the enormous hound of Bottomley Sands, which turned out to be a normal-sized dog on a mini-golf course. You simply need to know his secret. The renowned sleuth Montgomery Bonbon was really a 10-year-old girl named Bonnie Montgomery, wearing a false moustache. While the average Widlingtonian child enjoyed playing sports and learning rude words, Bonnie was mainly interested in murders. Solving murders, that is. Bonnie found that grown-ups took her deductive genius a little more seriously when she put on a beret and a foreign accent that was as wobbly as Bessie's ice cream cone. Behind the wheel of the former ice cream van was Grandpa Banks, once voted Britain's best-dressed ice cream man by readers of Scoop magazine. These days, he was a full-time grandfather and a part-time detective's assistant. On this foggy afternoon, Grandpa Banks was not taking Bonnie across the moors to solve a murder. In fact, Bonnie did not actually know the true purpose of her journey at all. The package on her lap was as much a puzzle for Bonnie as it was for Grandpa Banks. Her instructions had been simple. A letter from Morecambe & Wise solicitors. Monsieur Bonbon will kindly and promptly transport the item to Adderstone Manor. No one other than Montgomery Bonbon was honest enough to be trusted with this task. Besides, half of Widlington was suffering with serious bum trouble owing to a batch of bad gravy at the Lord Mayor's birthday party, and the whole town was on guard after the scandal caused by Tony Ostman, the phony postman. There had been a lot of eyebrow wiggling and excessive winking when Bonnie had collected the item from the solicitor Mina Wise. The assignment was more than a simple delivery, she was certain of that. It was a mystery, and that was one thing Bonnie never could resist. Mysteries called out to her. They demanded to be solved. "Not a bad drive, really," said Grandpa Banks brightly. "Apart from smelly peat bogs," he added with a sniff. Bonnie wrinkled her nose, setting her moustache a-quiver. She could see no sign of smelly peat bogs, whoever he was, but she could certainly smell him. "My good Banks," began Bonnie in Montgomery Bonbon's voice, "please to tell." "Are we there yet?" finished Grandpa Banks. "See for yourself, old man," he nodded towards the road ahead. Bonnie shuffled up in her car seat to get a clearer view of the moorland. The bubble wrap crunkled and popped under her grip. A dark stain began to spread across the fog. As it slowly took shape, Bonnie could pick out chimney stacks and many slanted roofs. a murder of crows transformed before her eyes into a collection of crooked weather vanes. Tiny points of light which might have been will-o'-the-wisps became bright, narrow windows. Bonnie and Grandpa Banks had reached their destination. Adderstone Manor. The manor was a vast, rambling country house built and rebuilt over many centuries from mossy grey-green stone. As the ice cream van rolled to a halt, the countless tapering spires looked to Bonnie like grasping fingers. Crunkle, pop. Bonnie held the package close to her chest as she stepped out of Bessie. Grandpa Banks had disentangled his new walking cane from Bessie's seatbelt and was now fighting to heave their gigantic suitcase out of the driver's door. Bonnie had never seen a hippopotamus being born, and she no longer felt that she needed to. Adderstone Manor had once been the seat of a noble family named Bland, an aristocratic bloodline that had died out years ago due to an acute shortage of second cousins. But the great house on the Penumbrian moors had not stood empty for long after the last Bland expired. Adderstone Manor, and every speck of dust it contained, had been bought up by the horrifically wealthy Fergus Croke. Fergus Croke was what the people of Widlington liked to call a right wrong 'un. He had gone from being a boxer to being a crook and a con man. They once called him a criminal genius. Today he was thought of as a wealthy recluse. That was according to the paperback copy of Houses of the Rich and Infamous, which was stuffed into Grandpa Banks's trouser pocket. The book was an exhaustive guide to the stately homes of Great Britain, and the disgraced politicians, reality TV stars and successful children's authors who lived in them. No nosy Parker should be without a copy, as Grandpa Banks would often say. Bonnie left her grandfather tending to the newborn suitcase and set off in the direction of Adderstone Manor's great portico, which is rich person talk for the front door. She hopped up the weather-worn granite steps that led to two large wooden doors and reached for a tarnished brass bell-pull that hung down beside them. But before her fingers could close around it, there was a shuttling and clanking of heavy bolts, and with a swoosh, the doors began to open. Bonnie held her breath. From the darkness within came a voice. "Oi, oi!" it said. Bonnie was not sure what words she had expected to hear on the threshold of Adderstone Manor, but she had not been prepared for an impertinent oi, oi. "Doorbell's busted, so don't bother ringing it," continued the voice. "Montgomery Bonbon, is it? I thought you'd be taller." The doors opened fully to reveal a man who could not have looked more out of place in his grand and gloomy surroundings. He had a smile that was as wide as his face, if not wider. His appearance was not unappealing, exactly. He was what Liz Montgomery, Bonnie's mum, might have called a silver fox, although he was not only silver, his skin was bronze and several of his teeth appeared to be solid gold. Bonnie gave a polite little bow. "Monsieur Fergus Croke, I presume," she said. Croke grinned like someone who was about to sell you a second-hand tumble-dryer. "I don't know what they told you about me in Widlington, Monty, but it's all lies." He leaned in, and Bonnie caught a whiff of his pineapple mouthwash. "I'm actually a lot worse." Bonnie was not used to criminals coming up to her and boasting about how villainous they were. She hesitated for a second, and Fergus Croke pounced. "Special delivery, is it? For me? Lovely." The old crook managed to pronounce the word lovely with 7 or 8 syllables as he snatched the precious parcel out of Bonnie's grip and stuffed it under one arm, like a piglet. "No," Bonnie protested. "Excusez-me." "Hold on a sec," interjected Grandpa Banks, struggling to lug their baggage and walk with his new cane at the same time. His vintage camera jingle-jangled on a strap around his neck. A gentleman would have offered to help Mr. Banks, but, well, neither Bonnie nor the man in the doorway was really a gentleman. "Here, what have you brought that big bag for?" demanded Croke. "You moving in or what?" Bonnie felt her cheeks flush and her moustache sag. Surely Montgomery Bonbon had been summoned for more than his ability to carry a bubble-wrapped box. Bonbon suspected that his services might be, how do you say, began Bonnie, but Croke cut her off mid-mumble. "Just pull in your tash, Bonbon. Come in. Kick your shoes off. Make yourself at home. Mi Castillo es su Castillo, eh?" By now, the oddly charming Fergus Croke had an arm around Bonnie's shoulders, and he was leading her inside Adderstone Manor. "I should like you," he said with relish, "to meet the gang." Chapter 2. The Gang.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?